morning or afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Feeding the Soul podcast. Today, we are joined by a personal favorite chef of mine. This is single name like Madonna, Kiera, hailing from Santa Rosa, California. Chef Kiera, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, friend. I'm very excited to do this with you.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this one. And for everyone who's watching, my background today, because I try to personalize these for every podcast. This is Kendall Jackson Winery, and I put it up there because that's the last time we hung out with Chef Kiera. So it was right
Yes,
behind this building here.
Personal favorite winery of all of ours.
Drank a copious amount of Chardonnay there, which is what you have to do when you go to Kendall Jackson.
Well, yes.
All right, Chef Kiera, you're my millions of listeners, and I say that with a giggle. They need to know a little bit about you. So tell us your story, starting from when you knew you wanted to dive into the culinary world. Take us to today.
Well, the story really starts with the fact that I didn't know that I wanted to join the culinary world. I spent over 5 years working in the food industry in my early 20s and, into my mid 20s with, I wouldn't say no sense of direction, but it was a stepping stone to something that didn't exist. It was reliable. I enjoyed it. You could always find work. If I had an issue with an employer, there was always somewhere else to go. And for a really long time, I just did it because I thought it was convenient. It took me moving to Sonoma County and experiencing the culture of the food industry out here to realize that I had been doing this because I love feeding people. And there was nothing else worth it for me to put my time into, which is why I stayed in it for so long. So after living up here for about a year and after years and years of pizza and sandwiches, I joined the Santa Rosa Junior College Culinary Program. I banged it out in 2 years because who's got time for that? And now I work in Healdsburg as a line cook.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot in that short answer. First of all, you mentioned feeding people, and hold on to that for the follow-up question. But you said you started in pizzas.
Yes. So pizza is very, very near and dear to my heart. I am not Italian or anything like that, but I worked at a pizza parlor in a little town called Visalia. The pizza company is Me and Ed's Pizza. If you're in the Central Valley, you should check it out. A little shout out there. And I worked for Me and Ed's during some really, really difficult times in my life. I did a lot of growing as a young adult while working in those kitchens. I worked for multiple locations due to some moving around. I was actually able to transfer with the company after 4 years with them in Visalia. I had to move back to Fresno due to some circumstances I was experiencing. I was able to go back to Fresno and have a job already with the same company I'd been working with. No company is perfect. They're a regional corporation doing their very best. They did me very well for the years that I worked for them.
You said you're not Italian, but someone who loves pizza that much, I think we can get you an Italian citizenship card. I think.
I'm just saying it is
You're
very
honorary.
near to my heart. If somebody asked me what I like to cook the most, the most fun thing for me is pizza. I like to do it at home. I've done it for work. I love to eat pizza. Who doesn't?
You're an honorary paisana as far as I'm concerned. So then you said Healdsburg. For those of you who know California geography, from Visalia to Healdsburg. How was that move for you as far as
yes, the move was from Fresno to Santa Rosa. I currently reside in Santa Rosa and work up in Healdsburg. It was a big jump. It was a split decision that I had been toying around and making some job inquiries up here because I was considering making the move. And I had someone take a chance on me. Chef Lou Chambrone at Canaveris here in Santa Rosa took a chance on me and hired me while I still lived in Fresno. So I went home that
Wow.
weekend, and on Monday, I quit my job, gave 2 weeks' notice. I went home from work that Monday and gave notice at my apartment complex. I packed up my life in 2 weeks, and I've been here ever since.
You are a brave woman. Wow, that's impressive.
It was a big leap, but it was one of the best decisions I could have made for my personal life and for my work life. My career catapulted in a way that I never imagined because at that point I was still just making sandwiches to pay the bills.
So fast forwarding from sandwiches, pizzas, where are you now up in Healdsburg?
I now work for Giso Latin Fusion for Chef Carlos
Ooh,
Mojica. Fantastic person, great chef. He's been a Healdsburg staple for about 10 years now. He'll have his anniversary this October. I'm very excited to celebrate that with him.
it is on my to-do list. Every time I go up to a winery and ask for new ideas for dinner, that restaurant keeps popping up. And that was even
And
before you
see,
were working there. Yeah.
and yet you still haven't come in.
I don't get to get up there as much as I like to, but next
I
time.
know, I know. But next
So
time,
I have an excuse when we were hanging out here and
I
drinking all
know we
that
were
wine.
closed on Monday.
I know it was a Monday, the one day they were closed. I would have been peeking in the window like this. Hey guys.
I know, I know.
So I want to tie into something you said earlier about loving to feed people. And that brings me to my second question about what drives you. And normally I ask outside of the kitchen, but I think for you, it combines kitchen and outside of the kitchen. So talk more about that love of feeding people.
Feeding people is so much more than food. And food is a great way to feed people. You can feed people's souls and lives through food and through that kind of connection. I will always connect with somebody over a slice of pizza. That's always going to feed my soul in a way that nobody really understands, because pizza was there for me when a lot of things weren't. As silly as that sounds.
No, that might be a quote going on a t-shirt.
Yeah, pizza was there for me when
For
nobody
me,
else was. um yeah, I met some amazing people working through that company, and there's just, you can also feed people through cooking, through teaching somebody to cook. You feed people through learning, through teaching, through sharing. Nothing brings somebody together like food. If somebody's struggling, I may not be the most comforting at all times, but I'll make you something to eat. You're having a hard time, let me go find what's in the fridge. You can
I'm
tell
pretty
me
sure
about
you're
it.
wrong. I think you are Italian because that's that's Italian genetics right there. Bad day, here's some lasagna. Come on, you'll be all
Well,
right.
yeah, I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm, not somebody who connects with people emotionally, because I do definitely. But especially if I don't know you well, I'm a little unsure what to do, and I get a little awkward, and so I'm like, oh, I'll go to the kitchen and I'll bring something out in here, and I'm like, here, you can have this. I don't know if you want a hug or what, but here's a bowl of pasta.
And I
Like
get what you're
anything.
saying. I think a lot of chefs that I've talked to, um, because of that, not so much social anxiety, but that maybe lack of comfort in just jumping into a conversation. Their love language is okay. I don't want to talk. I'll
Yeah,
help you feel
exactly.
better
I'm
through
like,
food
I'm
as
not
opposed
sure
to
what to
right,
say, but I can give this.
right. I'll give you a
I
little bit more credit than you're giving yourself though, because when we met, you remember where that was?
Yes, I do. It was very
you
exciting.
you kicked off the conversation just fine. But of course, it was a food centered event,
It was a
which helped.
food centered event, and I will say you did mention you were from the Central Valley, and as
Oh, right, that's
someone
right.
who has moved away from home, it did tug on my heartstrings a little bit.
The Central Valley radar went off.
Yeah, you mentioned you were from Madera, and I was just like, oh, really? I grew up in
That's
Fresno.
right. That's right.
Yes.
So you're working at a restaurant you love up in Healdsburg. You're living in Santa Rosa. I know you have a family there, and being a chef takes a lot of time. Having a family takes a lot of time. How do you balance that?
Well, uh, it's it's definitely more of a stumble than a dance. I also have the layer to my family that I am a part-time parent. We have split custody with my partner's son. And so while we are a full-on family whenever he's home, there is plenty of time for me to focus on my career when he's not home. It is something that's very difficult for us as a family. Obviously, I love my son deeply, and it's hard to be without him. But to a point, it is a bit of a luxury to be able to just barrel in and just be completely available when he's not here. And then in the
Yeah.
times that he is home, I now have the luxury of working for a company that prioritizes family as well as, you know, running a restaurant and all that kind of nonsense. My chef is also very family oriented. His restaurant is built around his family and how he grew up. And so working for someone like that who understands that not only do I have limited time, that the time itself is precious.
Well, that's fantastic. You found a place because we know that that's not the norm necessarily in the food industry.
No, it's really not. And people, chefs can have these families and successful families even, but I would argue that a lot of them still don't have a family life balance. They have a family who is willing to uh, grow through the imbalance.
Right. The family is willing to make a sacrifice so that the chef can dive in.
Right. And in this restaurant, at least, I'm learning that you can saculate a little bit on both ends, and that's okay. And
That is
still
awesome.
be an incredible 10 years in Healdsburg Plaza, like he's really doing well.
So I was about to make a comment about how far you've come from slinging pizzas at Me and Ed's in Visalia to where you're at now. But I've noticed every step you've mentioned, you've talked about the positive. Like you didn't talk about like, oh, I'm at this great restaurant now, and I was just doing. Even when you're talking about your pizza experience in Visalia, like you talked about it as this positive lens, and I think that's
I met some people at that pizza job that I will never forget, never stop talking to. One of my closest friends she's a floating manager down there now. She's been with them. We got hired around the same time. She's been with them since. She's doing really well. My district manager at the time that I was hired and worked for the Visalia store came very near and dear to my heart. She's a very close friend of mine. She's now up in the corporate office and has advanced her career. She started making pizzas with that company and she has advanced herself all the way into their corporate office. There's growth there for sure. It's definitely a good company to work for.
so. What strikes me is as stressful as the food industry can be, you seem to have maintained this positive lens through everything you've been talking about. And I think that is awesome, but it's also sadly rare.
Work
That
is a
shit.
safe space for me.
Okay. All right. I like that.
I
Okay.
I worked in kitchens and not even just in kitchens. I had some other random odd jobs too. I did a little bit of retail as a teenager when I first started, as we all do. But, we've all had difficult roads. And for me, work has always been a safe space.
That's fantastic. It really is.
I think that's one of those things that drives me in the kitchen.
I really wish I heard that more often when talking to chefs because so many times it's all about how stressful it can be. Like it's rewarding, but I'm really stressed. And you
It
just
is very stressful.
it
And
is, but you keep flowing with the positivity when every type of question I have, it's really refreshing to hear.
I mean, yeah, I could go back to managers I've had, you know, and struggles that I've had in the kitchen. I I've definitely had to fight battles, but it was all worth it. It's all been worth it because being in that kitchen for me, it's it's peaceful, whether it's chaos or not.
That's a really cool way of putting it. Even if it's chaotic, it's still peaceful if you have
Well,
that
yeah, there's the
that chef mind and that love of being there.
well, yeah, and honestly, a lot of us live for that kind of chaos that we have during a busy service that becomes the dance instead of the stumble. Um, but yeah, even in the midst of chaos, when things aren't going well, when it's a rough service and things are happening that shouldn't be, to be able to look at it all and like, yeah, this is still where I want to be.
So that positivity that is just oozing through the screen right now, hold on to that for this next question, because we talked a little bit off camera earlier about this. It is Feeding the Soul podcast. This is all about how we're taking, whether you're a chef or you're a winery manager or owner, and taking your position and being able to sort of pay it forward. And you've got a lot of love and positivity for what you do. That's just obvious. So thinking then about if you had the opportunity to organize one big giant fundraising event for one cause or one organization, what would it be for and why?
This is probably my favorite question so far. Um, I have not had a lot of personal involvement in the charity myself as an adult, at least. I was introduced to it as a child and a teenager. The Conquer Chiari Foundation will always be near and dear to my heart. In fact, I'll have to get you a photo of my Conquer Chiari tattoo. We'll pop that up on the screen here.
It's about to appear on your screen right now.
Yes,
There it is. Okay.
exactly. Yes. So this was my very first tattoo ever. It is in honor of my two goddaughters. I will hold their names in my heart because I respect their privacy. And their mother, who is my father's cousin and also my godmother, was a big part of my life. Has been a instrumental part of my adult life as well. I have another tattoo with her. we have a matching one, but then I also have my Chiari one. I got my Chiari one when I was 18 or 19. My goddaughters were both diagnosed with Chiari malformation as babies. I think that my goddaughter was 3 years old, 2 years old, and she'd had 3 brain surgeries. By the time she was 2 or 3, she had a very abrupt childhood, full of medical trauma. And in later years, her sister was also diagnosed with the same condition. They've both had decompression surgeries. Their mother has also since had some similar surgeries, and they have a lot of comorbidities to this condition. It's truly affected their lives in ways that just can't be explained.
That's yeah, that's a tough one. So for those who are listening right now, can you explain just quickly, Chiari?
So
Explain the
it's
word.
called Chiari malformation. It
Okay.
is a comorbidity of the parent syndrome being Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a little bit more well known these days. It's one of those things where my godmother and goddaughters still have to explain what this is to their doctors. It's
Oh,
it's not
wow.
something that gets the awareness that it deserves. It's a
That's
lot
tough.
more common than most people think, but it the issues that they had specifically that fall under the Chiari umbrella is there is issues with brain swelling in the brainstem area. So my goddaughters have their zipper scars on the back of their
Okay.
neck where they have had to be opened up and decompressed and have drains for fluid to keep them healthy and safe.
Hmm.
My godmother also has her own zipper now her Chiari tattoo actually has a zipper incorporated in it, which I always thought was really cool.
So I'm sure one day you will plan an event, do a
Oh yes,
fundraiser for this. But
it
until then, how can the people who are listening and watching right now, is there an organization that they can get more
so the Conquer
information, they can
Chiari
donate?
Foundation is the most active foundation in research and
Okay.
treatment. It is, we've done walks when I was in my teens. I think I was 18 the first time that we did a walk. We organized a walk in Fresno. Our first one was at Woodward Park,
Oh yeah.
and our second one was actually it was at Fresno City College where we did our second one.
Okay.
Um,
So when this drops, we're going to have, and everyone who's listening right now, you're going to see a link to the foundation. You're going to see a link for more information. So please, if you can give, that's fantastic. If you can just copy, paste, and share just to get the word out more, that helps too. Anything you can do.
the awareness is definitely something that we're always still pushing for. My godmother, when she was living in Fresno, did a lot of work with the city of Fresno and City Hall. We had September named Chiari Awareness Month. The awareness color is purple. As you saw in my tattoo previously, the ink is purple for a reason. Um, and it's, again, if you can't give, do as you wish. The awareness is definitely something that is ongoing. It's a condition that will affect my girls for the rest of their lives.
Right. Well, thank you to anyone who can, whatever you can do, sharing, liking, giving, whatever it is. But Chef, thank you for bringing a little awareness to that. Thank you very much. That's going to take
Get
us,
nearer and
folks,
dearer to my heart, that's for sure.
and that is what this is all about, right? um, before we go, we have to do a lightning round because that's just how we roll around here.
All right, okay.
So
Should be
stretch,
exciting.
do what you got to do. Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah, there we go. Take a sip.
Okay, so this is like those ink blot tests. The first thing that pops into your head, you just blurt it out. Ready?
Okay.
Sweet or savory?
Savory all the time, every time.
I'm still waiting to interview a chef who says sweet. Every single one says savory.
Interview a baker.
I talked to someone said even dessert, give me savory. I'm like, okay.
No, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Well, I see a
Shout out
pattern
to
here.
Chef Shelly Kaldunsky of Santa Rosa Junior College who put up with me for Intro to Baking.
And there's going to be a little visual in the podcast for that too.
Oh,
Perfect.
definitely. I've got some photos from the class for sure.
Oh yeah. All right, here we go. Next one. Drum roll. Last great meal you had and where? Not meal, that's great meal you had.
Best great meal I've had and where?
And family meal
It's
at work
tough
doesn't
because
count.
I don't go out much. Like inside my house doesn't count.
Nope.
Where have we gone recently? Kimura Sushi. I can't believe this slipped my mind. Kimura Sushi in Santa Rosa. It's off Sebastopol Road. Anybody listening in the area, please go down and show them some love. It's a fantastic place. It's our family date night. My son just finished the 5th grade. He'll be going into middle school next year. So we do an after end of the school year celebration, a little something every year. And we always go out to this favorite sushi place of ours. Hands down, unmatched. Great time every time.
So your son isn't even in middle school yet, and he's a sushi fan.
He loves sushi. We took
He's being
him,
raised
we
right.
went to Sushi by Scratch.
Oh yeah, I know that.
We went last year for mine and my partner's 5-year anniversary, and we took him with us because he was home that weekend. And as we were leaving, he was like, "Can we come back for my birthday?"
That's awesome. That
Yes,
is awesome.
fantastic.
Anytime you see a boy or girl is being raised not eating chicken strips and fries all the time, that is good news. All right.
We diversify for sure. He has a great palate.
Thank goodness.
Unfortunately, he'll take a bite out of an onion like it's an apple, though.
Ooh, and then you lost me.
Yeah, well, he's unique.
Well, he's still got growing to do. It's okay.
Yes,
Next one. One kitchen tool you cannot live without.
my bread knife.
A
And this
bread
is
knife.
probably going to be a little controversial. There are chefs who swear that the bread knife is like the most useless tool in the kitchen. But as a girl who started her culinary career making sandwiches and was working at a deli when I first started my culinary program, when I think about, my workhorse, she was my first workhorse. She lives at home now, in the drawer. I don't really need a bread knife at work now, but when I think about my trusty steed, it was my first one that I really ever put to use in a kitchen.
Well, Chef, I appreciate you giving our podcast their first controversial take, and that is the bread knife take. I
Yes.
expect to see a few chefs in the comments be like, wait a minute.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I can hear Chef Dustin, put your bread knife away.
I'll put a picture of him up
Where's
too.
your chef's knife?
That's awesome. Okay. Speaking of at home in your kitchen, what's always in your fridge?
Butter.
Well, you didn't have to think about that one. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there's various other things that constantly live there, but I can't go without the butter. It's
Can't
just too
argue that.
useful.
It's good on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Last but not least, we opened this up talking about a winery and drinking wine together. So my last lightning round question is wine related. If you could share a bottle of wine with anybody, living or deceased, who would it be?
Taylor Swift. I would drink Sauvignon Blanc for that woman.
Oh, second take. That's a Sauvignon Blanc. This is a family podcast. Don't. Oh, I know.
You know I'm a red wine girl.
Yeah, Sauv Blanc. Wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
You must really be a Swiftie.
Long live, baby. Long live.
There it is. Okay, so that's another T-shirt. I drink Sauv Blanc for Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
That is awesome. All right, Chef. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time and your sharing your passions and your story with us. Any last parting thoughts for our millions of listeners out there?
Keep climbing the ladder.
Oh, expand on that.
Well, I mean, I've been working in kitchens for 11, 12 years, and I will be 30 this year. Having moved from a place where chef isn't a career that one hears about as an opportunity, nobody's pushing you in that direction. To move up here where people think about food the same way that I do, to experience it the way that they do, to really experience food culture, I feel behind a lot. I work in kitchens with 25-year-olds who have been working in fine dining since they could work. And I've only recently started dabbling in the more elevated kitchens and reminding myself that I'm not behind and that, my place on the ladder, like everybody has a different ladder. It's not all the same ladder. That took me a minute to kind of grasp that I wasn't falling off of everybody else's ladder, but I was just continuing to climb my own. And I'm at the highest point on my ladder that I've ever been.
That is fantastic. So, as a resident old guy here, thinking back to when I was almost 30, you are way further ahead in your career than I ever was in mine when I was that age. So, you are crushing it. Take it from me, the old dude.
Well, and I will take it from you. I'm also I have to remind myself that for the amount of time that I have been decided in this as a career, I have also made exponential growth.
That is such a cool story. Especially since you started from our neighborhood over here in the Central Valley, to see you crushing it out there in Sonoma County and Healdsburg. I cannot wait to get up there and have you cook for us at the new restaurant.
I am so excited. Since the weather's nice, I was going to say I don't have a dining room table inside the house, but we can have a backyard barbecue here.
Don't threaten me with a good time. I'm on it. Let's do.
All
It's just
right.
that short 4 hour drive is what gets in the way, but otherwise,
Yeah, I know. 4.5 with
we will make it
four
out
on a
there
good day.
soon, and then we'll
Yes, I
go,
can't wait to see
and
you.
then we'll go
Yes,
here
back to
afterwards for
Kendall
some vino.
Jackson.
Absolutely. Well,
Chef
Chef
Tracy,
Kiera,
we're
thank
coming
you.
for you.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. And everybody, check the link to support the foundation and share as much as you can. And have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dino.